Ready? Okay. Good evening. We would like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone.
Adequate notice of this meeting. This meeting is being held in accordance with the schedule of meetings at 24. Adequate notice of this regular meeting of the Kenilworth Board of Education has been provided to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, the local source, on January 11th, 2024. A copy has been filed with the Kenilworth Borough Clerk, posted in the Board Office, the Kenilworth Borough Hall, Brearley and Harding Schools, as is provided by the Open Public Meetings Act.
Thank you, Mr. Ganello. Can everyone please rise and join us in the salute to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Ganello, can we please have roll call?
Yes. Viner.
Here.
David.
Here.
Drara.
Here.
Haberther.
Here.
Ladati. Panici.
Here.
Tiers.
Here.
Zimmerman. We have quorum.
Thank you. At this time, we'll have the receiving of the minutes and committee notes of the secretary. We need a motion to accept the regular BOE minutes of the secretary from September 9th, 2024. Can I please have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Mr. Haberther, seconded by Mr. Viner. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Mr. Ganello, do we have any public correspondence?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, we'll move on to the superintendent's reports and presentations. Superintendent Davies.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Panici. I'm proud to report how exciting things have been in and around both Harding and Brearley these past few weeks. From cultural events that engage with the community, like last week's Hispanic Heritage Night, to the social and emotional work that our school leadership, teachers, and counselors engage in through SEL assemblies at Harding, and the Week of Respect events at both Brearley and Harding. The district's heart is pumping strong. Meanwhile, academically, we're continuing to build momentum to target student achievement in our classrooms. Teachers are working hard to increase the rigor, and they did a great job preparing students for both the PSAT last week and the fall NJGPA last week here at Brearley. I would like to draw everyone's attention to resolution number 8. This is the resolution to approve the district goals, school goals, and the vision and mission statements of our district. As you may recall, last meeting I presented the district goals at our meeting. They include academic achievement, referendum and construction updates, student academic motivation, and student vision and voice. Those goals at the district level are mirrored at the building level. At Brearley, I'm pleased to focus on the 3 goals for David Brearley, which is strengthening and transitioning from middle school to high school, preparing to welcome 6th grade into Brearley, and also sustaining and enhancing academic achievement at David Brearley. So those are the 3 Brearley goals you see in resolution number 8. And then the Harding goals include supporting students' academic and behavioral growth through data using the MTSS process, as well as increasing family engagement to enhance student learning in the classroom. So those are our 2 Harding goals. So those make up the Harding and Brearley goals for our district. Moving on, I also want to publicly thank Ms. Madeline Pavlicek, who served as Brearley's acting principal for the past 4 months while we transitioned from my leadership to Mr. John Perillo's leadership. Ms. Pavlicek not only kept the Brearley ship afloat during the transition time, but she ran a strong ship, having improved our programming. Specifically, Ms. Pavlicek implemented a new initiative such as the 8th grade electives tasting. As she called it, this was a program whereby current 8th graders spent half of a day experiencing high school electives. Even at this early point in the school year, we thought this was important, and Ms. Pavlicek thought this was important to help our 8th graders understand all the great offerings that are here at the high school level. One of our goals is to make sure that we're retaining our top talent, and that's Ms. Pavlicek's work in that area. The program was met with great success, so thank you to Ms. Pavlicek for her work leading David Brearley during this time. Also want to publicly welcome Mr. John Perillo, whose first day at Brearley. So congratulations and welcome. As you recall, Mr. Perillo went through a rigorous and competitive interview process and became the clear choice of teachers, students, parents, and of course our administrative team and the board. So we know that he has the great temperament, the intelligence and creativity and determination to take Brearley to the next level. Welcome, Mr. Perillo. Speaking of success, I also want to introduce 2 of Brearley's finest at this time. We have 2 student reps with us tonight. Sydney Gensch and Haley Graff are going to present the Brearley and district updates. So I'm going to call them to the podium. Sydney and Haley are two of our most accomplished seniors. They excel academically. They're also highly involved in many different activities. To list them would take a long time. Know that they are some of our finest. So I'm pleased to welcome them tonight for our updates.
Thank you for having us here today to speak on behalf of the Burley students. We're excited to share some updates. In September, we kicked off with an activity fair. Students visited booths, extracurricular activities at the middle and high school levels. We're excited for more student involvement. We also had our middle and high school new student mixers, where our new students learned about all things Burley, as well as met other students. At the beginning of October, our seniors had the opportunity to gear up for their futures in their college application process through our annual College Essay Conference Day.
Last week we had a half day at Burley that was jam-packed. So 7th graders got to participate in Community Outreach Day. 8th grade students had engaged in DBHS elective tasting, where they got to preview a handful of great electives that they'll be seeing in high school. 9th graders participated in for high school and beyond. 10th and 11th graders took the PSAT, and 11th graders had Senior Day, where they started with a senior sunrise and breakfast, by a quick scavenger hunt and a pizza lunch, all sponsored by the PTO. We also had our annual Hispanic Heritage Night last week. There was food, student presentations on Hispanic countries, professional dancers, a band, and a flash mob by our Burley dancers. Coming up this month, we have Fall Spirit Week, College and Career Fair, the DBMS, Spanish Conversation, the Pep Rally, the Homecoming Game and Dance, and Tech Free Friday. We're excited for a productive school year to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Haley. Thank you, Sydney. You guys are free to leave if you want. Mr. Gunnell is going to take it up with the referendum update.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Monthly update on our projects. The HVAC work is coming to its conclusion. We're in the punch list items. Control work and balancing is currently being completed, and everything seems to be going quite well with that project. As with the fields as well, we're almost 99% complete. There's only a couple of outstanding punch list items that we're addressing currently. Moving into the additions, underground utilities are complete for Area A, or Area A is the addition to the middle school and science wing addition. It was great watching the concrete go down last week. Jeremy sent out a pretty cool time-lapse video of the concrete going down. It was really amazing to see how quickly that was done. My uncles, my great uncles, would have been very impressed as Italian Masons to see that process in full gear. The slab, as I said, is done. The grading is starting to take place. You'll see the piles of dirt are being shifted all throughout the fields. The sidewalk and curb installation, a lot of work was done today out there for the entrance in front of the middle school. The steel is expected. There's a little bit of a delay on that. It was supposed to be in last week. It's now expected to be in on 10/21. The steel for the Area C, which is the lobby, you could see that was installed, and that's for progressing very nicely. The framing and the utilities for that area are also done quite nicely. The auditorium stage at Burley has been refinished. The ceiling grid is installed. If you take a peek in there, you'll see the new ceiling grid in there. The floors are in progress of being completed as well. The HVAC installation at Burley and Harding is for this addition phase in the auditoriums is almost complete, and the electrical in the lobby is also in progress currently. So here's some pictures of the areas, the HVAC upgrades to the classrooms and the multi-purpose room, and the auditoriums and the gymnasiums. The field upgrades. This might be the last time I show this one, because I think we'd be completely done with that by the November meeting. We've been playing games on there pretty consistently and haven't heard too much of an issue. Hasn't rained, but thank God, because it's artificial, so we don't have to worry about rain, need for rain. Auditorium additions, you can see there. The top one is the auditorium at Brearley. The second one, you can see that's the elevator shaft being built. The third one there is the concrete slab right after it was installed. The fourth one, the bottom left hand, is the lobby, and then all the bottom ones are the lobby. You can see the last one is the roof of the lobby. Some other work that I wanted to note, if people were concerned about us removing a tree on our property, it was dying and decayed. It was split, so we had a contractor come out and remove that tree for safety purposes. Softball field, which is separate from the referendum projects, has been regraded. The infield, this is the infield project, and next month they're going to be doing the infield for the baseball. Project breakdowns, you can see here the cost of each of the projects, the change orders to date. As we noted last month, the bulk of the change orders for the field improvements had to do with the contaminated soil, which we expect to get approximately 50% of that money back through our insurance claim. And some minor change orders for the alterations projects to date. Remarkably, the HVAC project, which was $5.1 million, did not have a single change order to date. So that was pretty good on everyone's part. The contractors were great to work with. I think our engineers did a decent job of designing it. So that's not very typical for a project of that magnitude to have no change orders. And the auditorium, the last three projects are the auditorium seating, which is on hold until the ceilings are complete in the auditoriums. You don't want to put the seats up because that's really hard to work on the ceilings. And then the science lab equipment will come in, and the art room equipment and furniture will be coming hopefully towards May and June of 25. So that's that. Any questions? No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ganella. Next up, we're going to have Director of Curriculum Instruction and Innovation, Ms. Heimpel, and Harding Principal, Mr. Bobnowski, report out the NJSLA results from May 2024. While Mr. Ganella gets that presentation ready, just a preview. The takeaway from these scores is that we're trending positive in many directions. Meanwhile, we certainly have a few spots remaining that we need to target. So the news is overall positive and trending in the right direction, especially coming on the heels of Ms. Heimpel's last presentation in August, in which she highlighted the significant growth we've seen in our district's NJGPA scores, as well as our AP scores, which we're very proud of. But there's much work while there's much work to celebrate, there's work to be done. So we want to make sure that you know that we're not going to be complacent in the least. There's significant work to be done in certain areas. Those areas, some of them remain weak, and we're not happy about that. You have my commitment that we won't rest until we tackle these areas. You have the rest until these areas are addressed, and you have the resolve and the team spirit of our teaching staff, who also work tirelessly to target those areas and are on board with this as well. So I'm happy to say that we have a unified team to address any areas that remain, but the overall news is positive. Ms. Heimpel.
Great, thank you, and welcome everyone. So as Mr. Davies said, we're here to present an overview of the NJSLA scores from the spring of 2024. So again, just an overview of quickly what this test is. This test aims to assess the development of students standing in correspondence to the level of the academic standards. The results help us determine strengths and weaknesses across our subject areas. There's ELA, which is 150 minutes for grades 3 and 180 for grades 4 to 8. There is a math section, which contains 3 units at 60 minutes each for a total of 180. And there's also a science section, which is administered to grades 5 and 8 for 180 minutes and grades 11 for 240 minutes. So for ELA, on each assessment, students read and analyze passages from authentic fiction and nonfiction texts. The test can also include multimedia stimuli such as video or audio. It also emphasizes the importance of close reading, synthesizing ideas within and across texts, determining the meaning of words and phrases in context, and writing effectively when using and or analyzing sources. For math, students face a mixture of objective items assessing content and practice and constructed response items requiring the application of grade or course appropriate reasoning and modeling. The science standards require students to draw on their understanding of science and engineering practices, disciplinary core ideas, and cross-cutting concepts to make sense of phenomena or to design solutions to problems. The shift from an emphasis on measuring their ability to remember facts is to an emphasis on students' ability to use their understanding in new situations requires a shift in how students are assessed. The NJSLA results have all been sent home to families. In that letter also, there are instructions on how a family can review these scores online, as well as how they can learn more about the test and preview a series of practice problems, and we encourage parents to log on and take a look at those. Here is a sample of a score report, just so you can see it at a glance, that includes the information of how each child fared in reading and in writing. It also compares each student with the district score as well as the state score, so you can really get a full picture of how your child performed. We'll now hear from Mr. Bumnowski.
Hello and good evening, everyone. I'm going to lead you through the district's ELA scores. We'll take a look at them from different perspectives, but this slide, just like the rest of the slides that we're going to be looking at this evening, you're going to be looking at things from left to right. So if you look at this score, this slide, you look to the far left, the red bars represent those students that have not met expectations. You go to the extreme right to the dark green bar. Those are our students that have exceeded expectations. And then if you look at the bar that is most represented, that light green bar, that is the bar that represents students that are meeting grade level expectations. And again, this is the entire district from 3rd grade through high school. So our NJSLA scores range from 650 to 850. If you take a look at this slide, it compares our averages across 3 years. If you take a look at grades 3 through 6, you'll see a little bit of a rise throughout the years, and grades 7 through 9 have stayed fairly stable. This slide shows the same information, but in a chart format. Again, if you look at the chart from left to right, you move from not meeting expectations towards exceeding expectations. But what I'd like to point out in this slide is you take the average of met expectations and exceeded expectations and you compare those averages to the state average. I also like to point out that in grades 5 and 6, our average is much higher than the state's average, and that is an increase that we haven't seen in a few years. So we're proud to see that growth. And then lastly for me, this is just comparing our students to each other, just breaking them down from different groups, looking at race, gender, and programming, and it just compares the students from these different areas on how they performed on the test.
So I'm going to lead you through almost the same thing, but taking a look at our district math and science scores. So same thing, looking at these. This first slide shows you the entire district math view, but we'll take a look a little bit closer as we just did for ELA 2. So again, not meeting, partially meeting, approaching, meeting, and exceeding. Here are the average math scores again across the years. Same, 3 to 5 has stayed fairly consistent. 6 to 8 has gone up, and high school has fluctuated a little bit depending on the subject areas. You read this from left to right. Did not yet meet expectations to exceeds expectations. And again, the slide also shows the percentage of met and exceeds expectations comparing our district to the state. This slide compares how our students perform in comparison to each other when looking at race, gender, and programming. The last test that the students take is the NJSLA Science. It is only taken in 5th, 8th, and 11th grade. Here's a chart of our performance this year, as well as across the last 3 years. Science is a little different. There's only 4 categories: below proficiency, near proficiency, proficient, and advanced proficient. If you look at the last column, it shows the difference in our scores from the previous years as well, which is something new that was added. And again, this slide compares how our students perform according in comparison to each other when looking at race, gender, and programming. We do see those big red bars down there under the programming, the bottom one. That's our ELL population is really struggling with science, as you can see here. Looking into that, scientific language is so precise and often very hard for our students with limited English. We do have a teacher that is working on pushing in to support some of these students, and teachers are finding ways to utilize Google Translate for their class presentations and assignments very purposefully this year to help with that. As always, we have spent a lot of time looking at this data with many different groups of people through different lenses. So to tell you a little bit about what we are doing in our next steps, for ELA with the grades that are below the state average or don't have the results that we want, we are reviewing the current curriculum to discover the misalignment with the new NJSLA standards and the curriculum. With the help of a staff developer and our instructional coach, we are writing new lessons to ensure this alignment K to 8. One of the biggest things we've discovered when diving deeper into the ELA scores is that our reading scores across the grades are much higher than our writing scores. We know that writing can be very difficult for kids. So this year's focus is specifically on reviewing and building our writing units, giving children more exposure and opportunities to write. We're also looking at the ways we're preparing the students to take the test, ensuring that we're using the state rubrics and spending time reviewing and practicing more samples. For math, we're taking a very comprehensive approach K to 12. As you know, we are piloting new math programs K to 8. We've had the same program for many years, but we're piloting new math programs to ensure that we're building the foundational skills needed in the lower grades for our more complex high school math courses. Our current math program simply is just not meeting the needs of our students, and we are seeing some wonderful new ways to approach math through our pilot programs. We're also taking a look at our high school math courses and ensuring that they are aligned with the new standards, best practices around mathematical thinking and problem solving, as well as holding our students to high expectations. The high school teachers received new training last year in using their current program, as well as how to use the supplemental differentiated program ALEX to support their work, also to help create individualized pathways to close some skill gaps this year. In science, we started a new middle school curriculum for science last year, and we're continuing to grow and learn around that program, also with some continued professional development. Middle school and high school science are also receiving some amazing professional development this year around creating the lessons and units that align more closely with the next generation science standards and the expectations for the ways that students are approaching the scientific thinking and the ways that they're being asked to produce that. Those next steps, I feel like I kind of, incorporated into that. But that is our overview of the data and what we are doing to address it. Are there any questions for me?
Yeah, just what stood out to me was in the 8th grade math proficiencies, it seemed like they were higher there, and you just sort of touched on where our math program is in supporting the students, right, and we're looking at it. Is it the test that's catching them, or is it just the program that we have right now, or like how, because that stands out to me.
Yeah, so honestly, when I say like we're taking a whole district view, like they get to 8th grade somehow, right? So even though 8th grade at that point, like they are behind and are not doing successful on the test, it probably means we also, need to continue to build up all the prerequisite skills before it. Because at that point, like if they have a lot of holes in math or things that, we haven't gotten to or addressed as well, then the 8th grade test is pretty difficult, and it's going to be very clear the kids that understand the mathematical concepts and the kids that don't. So we had looked at 4 different programs, and we are piloting 2 of the programs this year. All of the new math programs do have like individualized student pathways that we're excited about. They also approach math in different ways where they're incorporating in a lot more mathematical thinking, a lot more mathematical talk, and also the teachers are, asking for more practice problems. Sometimes the way that math problems ask questions sound very different than the way that the New Jersey test does. So we have 100% identified some of the language and vocabulary that we might ask things that are different in the test, because a math program per se is created for like the whole United States, right? But the test might ask the question in a different way. So one of the things we are doing this year is taking more time behind the scenes to analyze a lot of the math and ELA and science, and trying to, I hate to use the word test prep, but in that way, like prepare our kids for the way that they're going to be asked, and draw links between like, how to do this in class, here's how they're going to be asking, and giving them more opportunities. We've studied some of the grades that have done a little better and ask the teachers, like, what are you doing? Why is this working? And a lot of the feedback has been they sort of have been filling in that work on their own as well. So we're hoping to, we are going to be sharing that more district-wide this year.
And when does that cohort take the test again? I think you said it earlier.
They'll take it in the spring again this year. Yep, every spring they'll take it.
Thank you.
Sam,
Yeah.
I have a question. It's
Yeah, of course.
similar to what Ryan asked, and you've answered some of it. So in comparison to Kenilworth and the state of New Jersey in 7th and 8th grade math and ELA, we were lower than the state of New Jersey. So when your team deep dives into the data and looks at the skills, you mentioned vocab. Is there any other specific, when you break down a student, how many students took the question, what the type of question is? You mentioned some of them. Sometimes it's the question that throws them off, the familiarity. But besides the vocab, are there any specific skills, maybe like 3 or 4 that your team has identified?
Yes, and so-
specifically per grade level?
Yes, and so every teacher in the beginning of the year received an email from me with their individual scores, with their grade score, as well as the identified standards that when I looked at all of the data, like what are the standards specifically in your grade, in your subject area that we need to be working on this year that will provide time and support around. And so they do receive that information as well.
And do the teachers, I'm just asking because I'm not sure, do they
Yeah.
do the individual student meetings where they sit with the students and explain this is your parents, but having those student data meetings in the class and saying this was your performance, this is what we think you need, and this is what we're going to work on, and these are the options? Is that something that's ever been done?
So
or maybe-
I can't say with consistently, I've 100% seen teachers incorporate that practice into all of their assessments that they give more broadly as well, not just NJSLA. I can't speak if they do it on NJSLA themselves, but I have seen like teachers, when they're reviewing tests with students, this is the one, our class really struggled on, and let's tackle this again before we move on to the next chapter. So I'll also say, just to reiterate, like when we looked at the ELA, not the math, but the ELA, it was so interesting to me how we are like so tightly wound around in our reading, which is great because we've really been focusing on reading a lot in the past couple years. And then our gap in reading in meeting the expectations for writing in the grades that are doing lower, that's where the gap is. So it was like this year pretty clear that that's what we needed to focus on.
Thank you.
I have a question. Maybe it's
Of course.
maybe I'm putting it a different way. So the fifth and sixth were doing so good.
Mm-hmm.
So the younger ones were not so good, and then afterwards it was down again. Could it be the teachers, or what is it that those grades are doing so well, and before, but afterwards, whew.
You know, our trends are very typical to what most state trends, right? Like third grade is the first grade that anybody's taking tests, so it's usually not like the highest grade. In fourth grade, we have looked at that across the years, and fourth grade is also, according to the state, just the hardest year for kids to be achieving. There's a huge jump in standards. We did identify with the new standards specifically as well that there were some holes in our curriculum and that we needed to go back. And so the fourth grade team right now is working on ensuring that those are and the fifth and sixth grade standards, I think, were more aligned in their curriculum, as well as you know, a lot of interaction with our instructional coach, with us, so we all are receiving professional development around it. So, you know, I think it's different groups of kids. It's make sure the curriculum is aligned. It's a little bit of everything, and we're trying to, you know, support and look at everything from all angles.
And we're not pushing the children ahead if they're not ready.
No.
I would hope,
Right.
because it goes way down after that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, and I don't hide it, like our program is not meeting our needs. We need a big change. And I'm, you know, towards the end of the year, when we choose our new math program, I will do a full presentation for everyone on why we chose it, what it looks like, how parents can get more involved. I don't know, are you gonna give a plug for the reading night at Harding later? Or
Spooky story night?
parents get involved?
Yes.
That was some feedback I received, and we're excited to, and I saw that's one of Harding's goals as well, building goals to make sure that parents are, you know, involved and being a part of our learning, especially in the lower grades as well for ELA.
Thank you.
For the, excuse me, for geometry, how many
Yep.
students actually take geometry? So
Oh.
this is in percentages, right? So
So
the percentage of
last
7%, how many
year-
students actually take it?
I would have to pull that up on Pearson right now. How many sections did we have last year?
There's at least 100
three.
students.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a traditionally ninth grade class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's such a different way of thinking geometry, like than the other maths as well. But we are providing targeted professional development this year in geometry to our teachers that are teaching geometry.
Sam, just a thought, because you mentioned it when you were talking about selecting a program, right? So we know programs have to be implemented for a long period of time to see if they're successful. But if we know that there's different groups of students now, right, would the team be open to not selecting 5 programs, but does it necessarily have to be one specific program in math? If we know there is a low, younger age struggling in this area that could use this program, like that could be something that maybe your team's open to. You don't want to have 25 initiatives going at the same time, but if your younger elementary teachers are saying we're focusing on this, and your 7th and 8th are saying the students are focusing on problem and reasoning, would it be something that maybe you can consider?
Funny, you should bring that up.
You know, doing something separate, because, right, you're targeting everything you're saying, which we believe too, and everyone has been
Yes.
presenting, teachers too, that we're trying to target, right? So it may work for 7th, 8th, but your teaching team may not think so. Program selection specific could be helpful, right? Not, that's
Yes,
just something.
and currently our middle school is piloting a separate program from our elementary school right now, because of the fact that when we looked at what children needed, and middle school, you know, is its own time in life where they need a little direction in a different way. And so the teachers had a heavy hand in choosing which programs they were going to pilot, and they chose a different one as their top 2 choices than the elementary school did. And that was something last year I'd met with a bunch of curriculum directors with, because I was like, oh my goodness, if I choose this and then we switch to middle school, everybody said if that's what they need, that's what they need, right? And so like you go with what different groups of children do need. The other like great part about all of these programs that they all have these like individualized pathways that the students can be on. A lot of them have like many more opportunities for differentiation or intervention of all different kinds. So we're hoping to be able to really address everyone's needs.
Going off of that, is there any of them, because I know the program we use, it's available in Spanish as
Yes.
well. So, we don't have as large as where I teach, but at least maybe some of those students who need that can have the workbooks in Spanish while they work with the ESL teacher, or, something that they can bring home, and then now their parents can read it and understand it.
And our current program has that too.
Okay.
So our students that ask for some of the Spanish Family English version, in truth,
Yeah.
but some of them want the Spanish version. It's also online in Spanish all the way up through the Reveal program in high school. So we can assign different students languages and math. That's a good to the math programs. Yeah, the math programs. Yes.
Anyone else, any questions for Ms.? Okay.
No. You guys know you can always ask any questions whenever you'd like. So.
Are you gonna be reading at Spooky Story Night?
I'm going to be teaching the
she
parents.
can't. She's
Yeah,
with the parents,
or working
yeah.
with the parents on some reading skills.
So Spooky Story Night is going to be on October 29th. It's an initiative by Harding Elementary School to engage with our parent population. We heard from our curriculum committee members who talked about bringing the students to school in the evening to bring the parents to school in the evening. And so kind of like almost like a free babysitting in a way to get parents that freedom to be able to meet with us as we talk about how parents can support the good work that's going on in the schools. We wanted to make sure that parents showed up to something, and we didn't put a lot of work into an audience of 10 people. So we expect a big crowd at Harding on October 29th, and we're going to have some of our first responders, firemen, police officers doing readings with the students in their classrooms, reading some spooky stories for Halloween, have some candy, have some of the big kids from Brearley there, having some of our teachers from Harding. So it'll be a whole community event with first responders reading, and then parents are going to be shuffled into the cafeteria where we're going to go through resources, tips, hints, ways for them to engage at home. That it can be a whole community event, the education of our youngsters. So we're excited for Spooky Story Night, October 29th. You're invited. Should be a fun night.
And if any parents are watching, please come.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Heimpel. Thank you, Ms. Heimpel. Thank you, Mr. Bobnowski, for that presentation. Last piece of the superintendent's report is regarding HIB. Did the clicker? Sorry. Happy to report that there were no HIBs since the last meeting, so there's no HIB report. However, we need to present our HIB self-assessment scores to the public and the board every year. So I have that information next up. You'll see there, so there's a whole series of criteria that we go through in this self-assessment. We're looking at our programming, our initiatives, our trainings, our staff instruction, the curriculum, making sure we go through our processes and our procedures, all to make sure that we're in compliance with the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act. So you'll see there on the right-hand columns, you have Harding Elementary's school score of 76 out of 78. That's a fantastic score. That means we are scoring either proficient or above. So that's a very good score, and the same for David Brearley. We're 76 out of 78. Again, very good scores going there. This has been a marked improvement from several years ago, and we're trending in this good direction right now. So you'll see historically from 21-22 we were at 76 and 74, and then in 22-23 we were at 76 and 76, and we are again at 76 and 76. Very, very, very strong scores there for harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Any questions about that? Okay. Those other reports are in your packet in terms of enrollment and such, but that concludes my superintendent report. Thank you so much.
Up next, we'll have finance and facilities. Are you going to present this?
Yeah.
Okay, finance and facilities, Mr.
Actually,
Gonzalez.
Mr. David and I are going to do a little bit of a tag team on this one tonight, so, in Mr. Ladotti's absence. So nothing really to report. My report regarding the referendum projects stands. We did start the budget process administratively. At the November Finance and Facility Committee meeting, we'll review the timelines and some of the goals with the Finance Committee at that meeting. I'd like to highlight some of the unique and non-routine resolutions on the agenda. There are 21 finance resolution. Number 8 is memorializing the goals that Mr. Davies outlined earlier this evening, specifically the school goals. Number 14 acknowledges the non-public security aid for St. Teresa's. Just remember that this that the state requires our district to coordinate these services with St. Teresa's and use us as a conduit and a flow-through for the state aid that is provided to St. Teresa's. This isn't taxpayers' money, not municipal taxpayers' money. It's all your money, but it's not directly coming out of the municipal side of the budget or our budget. As Dr. Panici, execute the collective bargaining agreement between the board and the Kenilworth Education Association Teacher Unit. And number 16 is approving a corrective action plan for excess cash in the school cafeteria account, which we plan on using to purchase the equipment needed for the middle school kitchen, which flows into resolution number 17, which outlines those purchases. Resolution number 18 rescinds a previous resolution, which we, and reapproves portions of it with different parameters at the request of the KEA. This program is for vacation and sick leave for certain employees upon retirement. And that really outlines the unique resolutions on the agenda. I'll now turn it over to Mr. David, who will review the policy enhancements and revisions this month pertaining to finance and facilities.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ganella. There's 2 policies and 1 regulation that fall under finance. This evening, the first one is policy 8420, and that is an emergency and crisis situations policy, and this is revised and it is also mandated. The updated language that all students and staff shall fully participate in fire and security drills, and school personnel must work to accommodate students with disabilities and their unique needs. And the impact is that we already do this. The next one is a combined policy and regulation relating to firearms and weapons. This is revised and also mandated. The term firearms has been added to the title of the policy and throughout the weapons policy. 8467 is now called firearms and weapons. Additional details are included about reporting suspected individuals to the principal, the superintendent, and the county prosecutor, about removing a student convicted for possession of a firearm or weapon on school grounds for not less than 1 year, and about removing a student who comments on an assault using a firearm or weapon on school grounds for not less than 1 year. The impact is that our procedures already aligned with the updates within this policy. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone have questions for Mr. Ganello or Mr. David for finance and facilities?
Yeah, some of the resolution. Let me get back to that.
Any questions?
Yeah, I do. I just have to go through, I have my little. Got it. Yeah, it was, Resolution 16. It's mostly the last page. It says members of the Principal Supervisor Association and non-aligned staff members. Just clarification on what's non-aligned.
16 or 18?
It's 19, actually, because next is 20. I'm sorry, 18. It's just.
Principals and supervisors,
Yeah.
you know who they are.
Yes.
A non-aligned would be myself, Jeremy, and non-collective bargaining units, people, confidential employees, and certain members of the IT department.
Okay, I didn't know, okay,
Yeah.
that's good. Thank you for that clarification. That's it.
Any other questions? Good? All that good? Do you have any?
Just on 20, the evaluation for incoming pre-students at $550 per evaluation. Is that just in the beginning of the year or as they come in? Is there any kind of a number?
This is, as of right now, this is for one preschool student.
Okay. So, but it would be open to anybody that's needed, no?
I guess we could extend it, but this is specifically for one student who needed a bilingual
Okay.
evaluation.
Thank you.
Anyone else, questions? Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to personnel and management. Mr. Haberthon.
Thank you. There are 7 resolutions tonight. Resolution 22 is the rescinding of employment offer for a child study team member in Harding School. Resolution 23 is the approval of a Brearley English teacher. Resolution 24 is the approval of school year 24-25 AM lunchroom aides and paraprofessional aides. Resolution 25 is the approval of co-curricular stipend positions for the 24-25 school year. Resolution 26 is the approval of athletic stipend positions for the 24-25 school year. Resolution 27 is the approval of student teachers, and Resolution 28 is the approval of substitute staff.
Do you want to read?
Oh, right, yes. We have 2 policies and 2 regulations. Policy and Regulation 3160 is a physical examination for teaching staff, and Policy and Regulation 4160 is physical examination of support staff, and it's mandated and revised. Because of the New Jersey Department of Health updated their guidance for tuberculosis testing by reducing screening requirements, this policy is revised to state that the board will follow the NJDOH guidance. So the policy doesn't need to be updated every time the guidance changes, and the impact is that nurses now know to follow the NJDOH guidance.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Haberthon? Okay, thank you very much. We'll now have curriculum instruction, Mrs. Tiers.
There are 2 resolutions tonight. The first one is the curriculum adoption, and resolution number 30 is the acceptance of the HIB report from August of 2024. There are also 3 policies. So P2200 is curriculum content mandated, which is revised. There was a list of referencing New Jersey student learning standards, and those standards are continually changing. This revision removes the list, so policy 2200 can avoid becoming non-compliant when standards change. Also, the revision updates any reference to New Jersey core curriculum content standard, New Jersey student learning standards, and it has no impact on us. R5200 is the attendance mandated revised. New Jersey legislation now allows students in grades 6 to 12 to have 1 state excused absence to attend a civic unit. Civic event means an event sponsored by a government entity, a community-based organization, or a nonprofit organization that incorporates elements of service learning, and there again is no impact. And finally, P5337 is the service animals revised. The revisions ensure that board policy is consistent with federal ADA and state statutes if and when a student requires the support of a service animal, and there is no impact as well. And that is it.
Anyone have questions for Mrs. Tiers? Okay, we'll now move on. There are 3 policies for the steering and committee, which I'll read. One is policy 0141, board member number and term, and P0141.2, board member number and term receiving district. So the policies are regarding the receiving district. They are revised policies. Board members' number and term have been rewritten for boards and a send-receive relationship. We are a receiving district, but this revision has no impact on us since Winfield makes up less than 10% of Brearley's population. The next steering committee policy is P9181, volunteer athletic coaches and co-curricular activity advisors assistants. This policy summary is regarding TB testing. Volunteer coaches and advisors will follow the JDOH guidelines. Also, volunteer coaches and advisors are required to participate in all mandated trainings required by the superintendent. The impact is none. The NJDOH guidance indicates screening for TB, which is not recommended for volunteer coaches and advisors who work with students less than 20 hours per month. Volunteers already participate in this mandatory training. Okay. Thank you. So we'll now move on to any old business. Does anyone have any old business?
Oh, they're new, I don't know. Just, maybe it's announcements. I went to the Hispanic Heritage Night, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And I just went to see, I didn't even know if we were supposed to go, but I thought I would like to participate. The place was packed, they had music, they forced me to eat. You gotta have this. I just, very proud to be part of that, and it was wonderful, I just want to say that.
Thank you. Under old business, we want to remind the public that the Friday folder is available. We say this every week. It has all the information, including the website, has information about tax and referendum that have been posted there for over 2 years, talks about percentages, projects, tax impacts, all of that's available. If anyone ever has any questions, they can always reach out to Mr. Davies for any kind of clarification, but that's under old business. That information continues to be there and available on our website, and there are some posts also on social media that address those concerns. Okay. Anyone else for old business? Okay.
Just want to add, whoever's responsible for paying for all that or something, and all the work that went into it, it was just amazing, so I just want to say that.
So, under new business, I wanted to say what Paulette said also, thank Mr. Mahia and the community. There was a lot of people that went. It was a wonderful event. The student presentations were phenomenal. They really seemed to have a great time. We wanted to make some congratulations to seniors for senior night and their families. It was a big community event. Parents were very happy. There was a lot of tears, a lot of flowers for senior nights. It's a milestone. There was so many teachers there, and it was a good celebration. So we love those things that happen every year. I also want to thank the community and leadership teams for taking the time to recognize there have been some events, Custodians Night, Custodians Day, there were some things with security, so taking the time to recognize those things is important. And Back to School Night also was a huge success, and we want to thank not only the leadership teams and the teachers, but there were parents, student ambassadors there, and also the PTOs had meetings, they had giveaways, they had bake sales, and everyone seemed to be very excited to be there and learn about their child's classes, so it was very successful. So we just wanted to, highlight those efforts. Anyone else for new business, anything that?
I do. I wanted to first thank all the crossing guards and the police officers out there every morning at Harding. Unfortunately, I'm not there for drop-off and pickup, but from what my husband tells me, it's so secure, it's so safe, everything runs so smoothly. So continue that great work. And also, as far as the new football field goes, the kids are loving playing on it. I'm enjoying no grass stains on jerseys, so they really love it.
Thank you. Well, anyone else, any new business? Okay, thank you everyone for your comments. At this time, we'll open up the meeting to the public for comment. Is there a motion to open up the meeting to the public?
So moved.
Second? Okay, motion made by Mr. David, seconded by Mr. Ferrera. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Ganella?
Public comment will now be accepted. The Board of Education sets the limit for the public to speak at the board meeting to 5 minutes per person unless prior permission has been granted by the Board of Education for extended time pursuant to KBOE Board Bylaw 0167. For the record, when you approach the podium, please indicate your name and address prior to making your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Ganella. Is there any public at the time that would like to comment? Please step up. No? Okay. Seeing no public that wants to comment, can I please have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. David, seconded by Mrs. Drogan. All those in favor of closing the meeting to the public, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ayes have it, motion's carried. The meeting is now closed to the public for comment. Mr. Ganella, are we ready to vote on roll call of resolutions?
Yes, we are.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 32 resolutions on this evening's agenda. Do any need to be voted on separately?
No, thank you.
Resolution 29 and 31.
29 and 31. Okay, can they be voted on together? Okay. Okay, so this is for resolutions 1 through 28, 30, and 32. All the resolutions on the agenda excluding 29 and 31. Okay? Biner.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Drogan.
Yes.
Ferrara.
Yes.
Haberther.
Yes.
Tiers.
Yes.
Panici.
Yes.
Motion's carried unanimously. Consider resolution number 29 and 31 on the agenda. Biner.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Drogan.
Abstain.
Ferrara.
Yes.
Haberther.
Yes.
Tiers.
Yes.
Panici.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, excellent. Do we have a need to go into closed executive session?
Yes, we do.
Okay, can I please have a motion to go in executive session?
Motion to go into. Second.
Okay, motion made by Mrs. Drogan, seconded by Mrs. Tiers. All those in favor of going into closed executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carried. Mr. Ganella?
Yes, be it resolved by the Board of Education, the Board of Education meet in private session from which the public shall be excluded to discuss the matters of student personnel, specifically regarding an HIB determination and a discipline matter, which private discussion is being held pursuant to Section 7B and 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act. The matters under discussion will be disclosed to the public as soon as final decisions are made and voted upon. Biner.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Drogan.
Yes.
Ferrara.
Yes.
Haberther.
Yes.
Tiers.
Yes.
Panici.
Yes.
Motion's carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you. So this time, we're going to move into closed session. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
See you at
guys.
Spooky Story Night.